It's the Dog Dads with the Barkology Podcast. What's up, y'all? Happy to be here. Check us out at the Dog Pack mini vlogs on YouTube. Follow us everywhere at Barkology Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Barkology Pod on Twitter, and listen to us everywhere, Greg. Everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
And I hope you love this episode. We have a very fancy guest, Monique Nastari. She has a Tri-Pawd dog named Trés, and she's one of the first that we've had that has a dog with 3 legs, so it's awesome. Let's do it. That's amazing.
The dogs.
Is that even a real story?
That's a fact.
This is complete nonsense, Greg.
Read a book.
I guess you are kind of artistic.
Incredible.
What are you even talking about, man?
Go for broke.
I don't even know what that means. Let's get it going.
Let's get her going. Keep her going, baby.
All right, Dog Pack, we back. It's Greg and Scott with the Barkology Podcast, and we have another very special guest today.
Yes, we do.
And it is Monique Nastari, and let me know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, that is correct. Very well done. I'm proud of you for that.
Awesome.
That might be a first.
Yeah, one of the first times pronounced it the right way. But she is actually on the West Coast out in Cali, and this is a first for us because she has a dog that is a Tri-Pawd.
No.
Yeah, 100%. Or a Tri-Pawd.
Ooh.
Another play on words, a Tri-Pawd, P-A-W-D. But Monique, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and then a little bit about your relationship with your dog?
My background as far as professional background is fitness-based. So I do personal training. I have been teaching MMA and kickboxing, boxing fitness for about 5 years, and I also am a yoga teacher. I'm a registered power yoga teacher, and I teach yoga sculpt as well, which is basically yoga incorporating light hand weights, dumbbell weights.
Very cool.
So that's a little bit about what I do. Yeah, I do a little bit of nutrition, consulting and counseling here and there, but I mostly teach fitness, group fitness, and personal training. And now having a 3-legged dog, I'm working on, just some training with him as well. And it's really an interesting thing to work with an animal that has a limited, I don't want to say a limitation really, because it doesn't seem to slow him down, but it's teaching me a lot. And the way that I approach working with him and exercising him is very similar to how I approach working with clients. They will tell me if something doesn't feel right. They will show it if something doesn't feel right or something is too difficult or it's something that needs to be worked up to. So I treat, working with Trés on his exercise the same way. We'll start small and we'll just kind of grow on that. And I'll take him for a walk, let's say for 20 minutes. And if that seems easy for him, he's not tired, he's not sitting down a lot on the walk, next time we'll go for a half hour, we'll go for an hour, we'll work it up. So I just approach it the same way. I let him tell me by showing me that, hey, yes, I can do this, or you know what, no, let's slow it down a little bit.
No, that's very cool. That's very cool. And I love the fact that you have a fitness background. I know I mentioned previous to we started the podcast, but Greg and I were both collegiate athletes. We played lacrosse, but we did, and I wouldn't say recently we've been doing a lot of yoga, but we used to do a lot of yoga for lacrosse because maintaining your flexibility with strength is huge, and you're doing a lot of running, so your IT bands are always tight and things like that. But
absolutely, yeah.
I can imagine right now, I don't know if Greg can even do a down dog. Who knows? You might be a little too tight in the calves.
Yeah, I jacked my back up the other day, so I can't do much of anything.
If you can appreciate the irony in this, there's actually a yoga posture that's called 3-legged dog.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
I've been there. I've been there, done that.
Flipping the dog? How about that?
There's a
little wild thing, flip the dog wild thing.
Wildling pose. Yeah, there's all kinds of, there's bird dog, there's different variations of downward facing dog, upward facing dog, that kind of thing. My yoga, colleagues and friends find it very funny that I have a Tri-Pawd dog, and it's just a running joke because, he's a yoga dog. He's a 3-legged dog. He was born for this life,
That's amazing.
He was ready for it, yeah.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about your dog, name, how you ended up finding him or her, I didn't clarify if it was male or female, but tell us a little bit about how that happened.
Trés is a boy. His original name was Coda, and that just wasn't going to work for me. So when I adopted him, I immediately changed his name to Trés, which is the Portuguese word for three, which is very fitting because he only has 3 legs.
It makes sense.
He originally was at the Victor Valley Animal Protection League, which is a shelter in Apple Valley. And from there, he was actually there twice. So he was a shelter dog. He was turned into that shelter, and his owners came and retrieved him, and then again found himself back at the shelter. And the owners the second time said, yeah, sure, we're on our way to go get him, and just never came back for him. And then Hollywood Huskies is a rescue for Husky specific, but they've taken other breeds as well that is based in Studio City, Hollywood area here in California. Mm-hmm. So they sprung him from the shelter and put him in a foster home, and I found him by way of Instagram. I was actually I wanted to adopt, to rescue a Husky. That was my intention when I knew that I wanted to bring a dog into my home. And just by searching and hashtags and looking online, and, they posted a photo of him, and I immediately went on to his foster mom's Instagram page and was watching her Instagram stories. And I knew that was going to be my dog. Like, there was no question that he was going to come home with me. And I reached out right away. I immediately did. I reached out to his foster mom, Susan, who's actually a very good friend of mine now. We talk every day, which is a great side effect of this process, is I have an amazing new friend, family member, and her husband as well, Michael, who's a great individual as well. So anyway, I was looking on her IG story, and I messaged her and I said, tell me about this dog. And she's like, is it cool that he has 3 legs? And I'm like, are you kidding me? That makes him more rad. Like, of course, it's, some people are turned off by that. So she was, and they had that issue previously with people showing interest in him and then discovering that he has 3 legs. And they're like, no, it's okay. Like, we'll find something else. And it's really not something that I think, should be just overlooked like that. But I mean, I can't, people have their opinions and things that they want in a dog, but I just think that it's something that makes him stand out, and it makes him more adoptable, in my opinion. But it worked out for me, so no. I guess I can't really be upset that he was passed over by other people.
For sure. And I know Greg has a question for you, but I just want to say, going back to the very beginning of that question, thank you for not naming your Husky. Trés is a Husky, at least maybe a mix, but every single person I know, one name that they even consider as like the top 1 or 2 names is Coda. For a Husky? For whatever reason.
Are you kidding? Yeah. It's so many. When I saw him and I had discovered that was his original name, and I knew that going in, like, I knew that Coda was a thing. And there's so many dogs, just not even just Huskies, but in the world named Coda. And I'm like, this dog is not going to be named Coda. Yeah. Like, it's not going to happen.
I applaud you. So thank you for that. Trés is much more original.
Sure.
I like how, I think Trés in Spanish is also 3, but I like how you did the Portuguese version. Got the little accent on there. I hope that's on his little birth certificate, or at least at the vet, at the animal hospital, on his little card there. That'd be great.
I will put that accent in, but the thing with doing any sort of registration or anything online is it sometimes rejects special characters. And I think that's a serious problem because it limits you to spelling things correctly. So when I have to fill out his vet forms, unfortunately, it will not let me put the little, half or 2/3 triangle above the E on his name. Mm-hmm. So I can't do it for everything. But for most things, it'll accept the accent mark. But some online forms will kick it back to me. So that's a little bit frustrating. But I can overlook that.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know where to find that on a computer. So I applaud you for knowing where that is. That a key? Like, what? Do you have a special keyboard for that? Like, I don't even know how that works.
No. There's this really amazing button. There's a really button on your computer. It's the function button. Everybody has it. So you just hit function and then the letter, and it gives you the option of changing the letter with certain accents over it.
You're gonna have to go back. What's the function button?
Greg just looked at his keyboard looking for a button that said function when it's the FN right next to the control button.
The FN. Yeah, it's the FN button right there.
I never knew what that did.
So actually, let me ask you this. So do you have any idea, I know, one, how old is Trés? And then do you have any idea how he actually lost his leg? Was it an injury, an accident, like an illness? Did he have some sort of tumor or something? Do you have any insight into that?
So I do. Actually, well, as far as his age is concerned, he is estimated to be, we'll say 2. The vet took a look at him, and based on, what his teeth look like, he's between 1.5 to 2 years old, probably closer to 2 years old. Okay. So as far as his, date of birth, we're just going to call his gotcha day, his adoption day was the 11th of April. So I'm just labeling that as his birthday 2 years back. So we'll just say that his birthday is April 11th. Yeah.
Works for me.
As far as his, what's that?
I said that works for me.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's like a national holiday or something. It's like National Dog Day is on the 11th of April.
Oh, wow.
If I'm not mistaken.
What a
I think that's correct. Yeah.
I think you just robbed him of a day.
As far as his...
It's like having your day.
It's what?
It's like having your birthday on Christmas. You just get robbed of
it's like I mean, he gets all kinds of stuff. So
I'm sure he gets a lot of attention.
Spoiled on that day. He gets a lot of attention. As far as his missing limb, he was actually born with the defect. So you can see, if you look at him, the leg is not severed. It's partially developed.
Gotcha.
So it has just a little, it's like a little, 1/3 of a leg with like a little toe, like a little stub at the end of it. It's really cute. Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
So
honestly, I don't want to use the term nub, but it is like, because he looks so happy in every single picture you've ever taken. I'm on your Instagram page right now, but it looks like a little nub. It is kind of cute. It's not anything that you should be. Kind of like you mentioned before, like a lot of people have a stigma towards maybe a dog with 3 legs, but he looks like he's just having the best time of his life with you.
I try to take him on as many adventures as possible. And just going back, National Pet Day is when I brought him home. That was the day.
Oh, okay, cool.
Awesome. But no, I take him everywhere with me. Every time I say the word adventure, he freaks out, and he knows that we're going somewhere. He knows that we're going to the beach or to the park or to meet friends or just to, the store. He loves going in the car with me. I take him. He's just an extension of me. He goes with me everywhere. And, we try to do as much as we can. I don't want him to be limited because of his disability. I want him to experience and do as much as we can, and if we have to dial it back, fine, we'll do that. But I at least want to give him the option of trying.
Absolutely.
So I'll take Thursday, for example. I had this crazy idea. I said, Huskies are sled pulling dogs. That is what they were bred for originally. So I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a skateboard. And I did. And let's see if he wants to pull me on it. So sure enough, took him to the beach, had my longboard. And I was like, okay, Trés, let's go. And he was having a blast. He's like, this is what I was born to do. Let's do it. Granted, he wasn't going as fast as a dog with 4 legs would go, but he was having so much fun. And I had thought in my head, I wonder if other people that are seeing this are thinking, oh, wow, she's really cruel to make her dog pull her on the skateboard. But then you look at him and you see how much fun he's having, and it's like, wow, they're doing a good thing.
Yeah, keep your judgment to yourself. He's having the time of his life.
Oh no, but we were so well received by everybody.
Oh, good.
I can't take him. Yeah. I can't take him anywhere without getting stopped by every single person that is a dog person will stop us. Every single person. I am surprised. It's very humbling when complete strangers, approach me, especially right now with all the social distancing things happening. Mm-hmm. People will just, say, you know what, forget the social distance. I want to go and meet this dog and talk to this woman, and ask her about this dog story. Like, people will approach me and just ask questions and say, it's such a great thing that you're doing, like, good for you. But I don't see it as I'm doing this great thing. he's my dog and he's great. Yeah, he has 3 legs, but he's, I don't feel like I deserve that much credit for doing something like that, because I think that he's just as capable as any other dog with 4 legs. So I don't see it as, oh, I'm doing this great service. I mean, yeah, I rescued a dog and that's amazing. And I think that's a great thing to do for any person, to rescue any animal. But I don't think that makes me better than someone that has rescued or adopted a fully functional dog, let's say.
Sure.
But I mean, it's nice. It's really humbling, and the response that we get is great. And he loves all people. He will stop and let you pet him and talk to him, and he'll just put his head in your lap. Like, he's the happiest dog with 3 legs you'll ever meet. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like people are giving you praise when you're like, "What am I doing? I just have a dog," which is really cool.
Yeah,
to hear.
exactly.
So, you mentioned earlier that you were looking specifically for a husky. I guess, why was that?
Mm-hmm.
What about huskies, I guess, drew you to them?
Well, I've always been interested in the breed. I loved huskies. I love the way that, huskies look. And I have a good friend of mine at my gym where I train, and he has a husky, and it's a dog-friendly gym in San Pedro. It's called South Bay Strength Company, and
awesome.
That's where I work out. Yeah, it's like a powerlifting gym, and it's a really cool community, and everyone is able to bring their dogs. And so my buddy Justin has a husky. Her name's Arwen, and the first time I met her, I was just so drawn to her. She's such a gorgeous dog, and her personality is so sweet and awesome, and I was thinking, you know what, I need to get myself a husky one of these days. And then the pandemic happened, and I thought, you know what, there's not really a better time than now to be able to do this. I'm home, working from home now mostly. I have the time. Let me do some research and find a husky that needs rescuing. And sure enough, I found Trés. And another reason I wanted a husky specifically is because I know by researching that there is a severe overpopulation of huskies in California. When Game of Thrones became a thing, like everybody was like, ooh, I want to have a dog that looks like a wolf.
I want a dire wolf.
People don't understand. Yeah, exactly. People don't understand that huskies require a lot of exercise, that they shed a lot, and they require a special kind of person to take care of them. And so these backyard breeders were mass producing these huskies and selling them. And now all of these husky owners who realized, oh, hey, this is too much work, end up dumping their huskies in the shelters. So there's so many huskies in shelters right now. Mm-hmm. So many.
That's insane, and that's a good point you brought up, because Greg and I have actually talked about this in previous podcasts, but Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, he actually went out on, I guess I could call it like an expedition, where he was educating people on the fact that you should not be buying these types of dogs. They're high energy. They need a lot of mental stimulation, a lot of exercise, and they're realistically, they can do well in, warm climates like LA or wherever, but they're a cold weather dog for the most part. Right. So people don't understand that. And that's something that we constantly come back to on a lot of our podcasts is, find the dog that's right for your lifestyle. And for you, obviously being, into fitness, you're outdoors, you went out and grabbed a longboard and you're like, let me see if he likes to pull a little bit, because that's, ingrained into his mentality, into his personality. And then, you went out and did it. A lot of people don't do that, especially during this time and being quarantined. You're stuck at home. One thing that we touched on last episode was that people are just sitting there being fat and sedentary and not taking their dogs out for a walk. It's crazy. So I think you're doing the perfect job.
Thank you. And I research everything too, because I want to make sure that I'm giving him the best possible life. And I know that different breeds require different, they have different needs, and if you combine, the fact that he's a husky and he's limited mobility, so there's a lot of things to consider. So I'm trying to just combine all of those elements, and some people will say to me, I'm in a few, what are they called? Like Facebook group pages, right? For huskies. And so there's a couple of, what's for lack of a better word, trolls in these groups who will chastise people such as myself that have a husky in a warm climate, living in Southern California. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, here's the thing. Would you rather they end up with someone who's not going to do the research and take the time to research what it is they need and how to help them thrive? So I don't think that climate should be a determining factor as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. The first thing I did when I brought him home, I bought a cooling pad, a bed with a cooling pad in it, making sure that he's able to, especially because it's warm right now going into summer. So I did all of the things. I had all the steps already pre-planned to make sure that he had the best possible environment. So it's, and it's just going back to, you have to put the time into research and make sure that you're able to give that specific type of dog what they need. And if you can't, don't do it. It's not doing a service to the dog. It's not doing a service to yourself, to your own quality of life, because you'll constantly be stressed out when your dog starts freaking out because you're not giving it what it needs.
No, 100%. And, as long as you're brushing the dog and, getting it a haircut every once in a while, a dog with long hair like that.
Daily brushing.
Exactly.
Daily brushing. If you have a husky, please invest in a Roomba. I'm just letting you know. If you have a husky, please invest in a Roomba. I need to get one of those because I am constantly brushing and sweeping every day. And I do it with love. Like, I will brush him every single day as long as he's alive because he's worth it to me. But, yeah, there's a lot of hair.
Yeah,
a lot.
Oh, I went through the shedding phase a few years ago for about a year, and I actually came out bald on the other end. So I know exactly what's going on. But no, one thing I wanted to bring up and ask you a question about: have you received any pushback or any negative feedback by mentioning your dog as a tripod or Tri-Pawd or whatever whatever you want to call it? To me, it seems like people who would get mad at that are kind of ridiculous and they don't understand that you mean well and it's just a figure of speech. But have you received any negative feedback by doing that?
Not whatsoever. I mean, I have not heard any negative, not whatsoever. Not one ill word has been spoken in regards to referring to him as a tripod. In fact, I have seen from other rescue organizations and even Hollywood Huskies when they are talking about dogs that have the same, limitation that Trés has, they refer to them as tripod or Tri-Pawd, P-A-W-D. So I feel like it's a common term and it's not looked at something negative. It's just, it is what it is. It's easier than saying, okay, this dog's missing a leg. It's a tripod.
Yeah, you have to embrace it 100%.
So, yeah.
So one thing that I was thinking about, actually, because you adopted Trés when he was, still kind of a puppy in my mind, anywhere between a year and a half, 2 years, they're still pretty much a puppy. What was his temperament like and his personality when you went to see him? I'm sure he was loving and all of that, but did you see anything else inside him that really drew you to him? And then is there any negative aspect that maybe because he was born with 3 legs, you see come out or not really?
I mean, when I first met him, there was an immediate connection. So when I went to Susan and Michael's home and did the meet and greet, just, we have to feel out the vibe and see if the dog is a good match for the potential parent, Mm-hmm. So immediately there was an instant connection. Like, he came right to me and put his head right in my lap and was just like, hey, take me home. You're my mom. Like, I just knew, we knew that he was coming home with me. And I feel like, at least for me, I have a strong sense of intuition and I believe in energy and, matching energies and vibes and, morphic resonance is a term that's, basically combining different forms of energy something new will come out on the end of it. So immediately when I met him, we had an energy, a vibe that just worked. So I definitely felt that right away from him. And I think that he knew that, he sensed something in me that I saw in him, at least for myself, because I was born with a defect as well. I'm actually blind in my left eye.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So So for me, I've always had to grow up adapting and making, alterations, modifications in my day-to-day. My right eye is super strong, so I'm trained to see with both eyes, which is awesome. But as a kid, I had to deal with a lot. I had to train my right eye to see. I had to wear a pirate patch, over my one eye to force my other eye to be strong. So I know what it's like to have to deal with something challenging. And as a child, that was very, very hard for me because I had to, adapt. And my parents did a great job in terms of making sure that I, had to do these eye training techniques and things like that when I was at home. But it's still limited to how much time I could go spend with my friends or be outside because they didn't want to expose me to other little kids who would potentially make fun of me, you know?
Oh, 100%. And that's
yeah.
I just wanted to say, and I didn't mean to interject or interrupt you, I think that's
okay.
a very important point to stress. Even though you're born with what some might label as a disability and things like that, it's something that you have come out on the right side of things. And you mentioned that your family is very supportive, and I think that's huge, especially for, Greg and I are 30 years old. We're going to become parents soon.
Are we?
Well, I think in the next couple of years.
Something I don't know?
I am not pregnant, Greg. No. But I think it's very important for you to stress that.
Are we making revelations here? Is that what's happening?
No.
Something's happening?
Not today, but I think that's super important.
Speak for your own dick.
Because especially moving through your life and, if you have an issue like that, it's important to have that support system and grow through it and figure out the best way to manage it. And it looks like you've done a great job, and a big part of that was your support system. And hopefully you can translate that support system and then back to you as well with Trés, which I think is awesome.
So I've got a question.
Yeah, and I love that. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that and with having gone through it and having to, grow up, and I still have issues with the vision, right? Like there's still times where, if you're looking at me, like you've seen my photos, I look completely normal, but there's times where I feel a lot of ocular pressure, things like that. So I'm still always dealing with it. Even in my adult life, I'm 35 now and I was born with this. So there's still times that I have to kind of work through it, but I'm willing to acknowledge that and do the work. So I'm trying to translate that to Trés as well. Hey, I know that you have this going on with your missing leg, but I want you to try, and we do every day.
So with both of you being, having a disability, do you see any of yourself in Trés? Is there any similarities
100%.
to the way you both grew up?
I can't speak on his first 2 years because I didn't have him,
Sure.
but he is, his personality, I would say, is definitely similar to mine. He's a big goofball, and so am I. You know what I mean? He loves attention. So do I. He loves peanut butter. So do I. He has a lot of hair, and so do I. So there's a lot of different things, and a hair on my head. I'm Brazilian, so I have really just thick, crazy hair. So I understand that. But yeah, personality-wise, definitely very similar. And the more I'm learning about him, because he's only been with me for 2 months, so we're still learning a lot about each other. But I definitely see a lot of myself in him. Absolutely.
Well, it seems like, and I'm glad you mentioned that it's only been 2 months, and you did adopt him while we were being quarantined. But it seems like, to be 100% honest with you and transparent, you've learned and you've spent more time with this dog than people do with a dog they've had for 5 years. And I think that's super important, and maybe that's something that, you can look at a positive coming out of being quarantined, and that you created this relationship, and it's going to be long lasting. And you're living a life right now where you're active, you have your gym where you can bring your dog into and create relationships that way. I think it's perfect. And, the sad other side of this whole thing is that you don't know what would have happened to Trés. You mentioned that he was, kind of taken in a couple different times and then ended up back at the shelter or wherever. And now you adopted him, and it seems like it's a perfect fit. So that's amazing.
Thank you. I like to think so too. And another thing about adopting a dog during the pandemic, and I know that this has probably come up for a lot of people, is, the question of, well, what's going to happen when life goes back to normal and people are back in their jobs and start working? And I think about those things as well. I know there's going to be times where I will have to be away from home. As much as possible, I will have Trés with me. If I can take him to the office or to the studio, wherever it is that I'm teaching, if he can come with me, 100% he will. But, I know that that's something that's a concern. But I think that for people such as myself who have adopted an animal during this time, it teaches you how to prioritize what's really important, right? Because you have limited things that you're able to do. So coming out of this, you're going to remember what really matters to you, and you'll make those things a priority. Because when you take things away that you may have taken for granted, and you are forced with forced to deal with what you have in front of you, you realize what's important.
No,
So I would hope that translates to pet owners and they make their animals a priority, even when they are able to go back to normal life and not just, pass them over. And I think that, I trust that rescues place, dogs and pets with the correct people, knowing that when this, pandemic is gone away and we're all able to return to normal life, and we're getting into that phase now. We're getting into that where things are starting to opening up, and in California right now, like we're entering to that last phase of things. So I would imagine that people, have thought it through and are willing to prioritize their animals when the world does go back to normal.
Yeah, 100%. With Newsom over there in California, who knows what's going to happen? That guy is all over the place. But to add on to what you just said, my dog Leah, she's 9 years old. She's getting old. She just broke her toe randomly running through the backyard the other day. But I'm thankful that I have friends like Greg. He lives 5 miles away from me, and we went to hang out with my wife, so my brother-in-law, last night, and I needed somebody to let her out. And Greg's a guy I trust, with her cone on and her splint on her foot, her pink splint that looks like she's like a diva. I trust him to take her out, let her pee, feed her, give her meds and things like that. And that's something that, I think a lot of people take for granted a lot of times. Like some of these older people that are buying dogs when they're 60 years old and then they go down and live in Florida for 2 months and kennel their dog for months is insane to me. It absolutely makes no sense. So, one thing that, again, I think we're kind of trending on the same topic here, but when it comes to exercising Trés and managing his Greg's looking at me like we already touched on this.
What topic are you talking?
No, sorry. But when you're exercising him, how do you manage his general overall wellness? Because I have to imagine when it comes to joint pain and I don't even know if it'd be muscle pain or tendon issues, but because he's putting an extra 30% of his weight on 3 legs instead of 4, I have to imagine
Where'd you get that math from?
I'm guessing. I'm just guessing, Greg.
But
you want me to say 25 because
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, okay.
No, but
25, that makes sense.
Do you have to take into consideration the fact that if you do a little bit too much, if you overexert him a little too much, he might get injured? Just because my dog has been injured so many times in my life, it's crazy. So I just wanted to see if that was something that you're thinking about.
Well, I from the physical standpoint, like I said earlier, I definitely watch and observe, and I let him tell me by showing me if something might not be right. And he's so far done a really good job of letting me know, hey, let's slow down. He'll let me know when he's tired or, wants to dial it back a little bit. But as far as the overall wellness, there's things to take into consideration. So in addition to his just daily food that he gets, I do give him supplements for his joints. So he does get CBD every day.
Oh, awesome.
He gets glucosamine every day.
Mm-hmm.
He gets turmeric every day. There's a turmeric supplement that I give him. He gets salmon oil every day. And he also gets another supplement that is just a combo of different natural herbs that will help with, it's basically for older dogs, but because, that have to help mitigate arthritis, things like that. But I'm just kind of giving it to him as as a preventative.
Get ahead
of it. So it has some ginseng, some ginger, some alfalfa, some cayenne in there. So it's just, I always take these things into consideration because health and wellness, in terms of what I put into my body is very important to me. So I would have that 100% translate over to my dog as well. I'm not going to give him trash. I'm going to make sure that he's eating well and he has everything he needs to thrive. So the supplementation is a big part of it and making sure that he has those things daily. And, the vet even said, hey, that's a great thing that you're doing. It's awesome that you took the time to research and figure out, hey, what does he need to make sure that his joints stay healthy and he stays, he stays healthy and can live a long life.
Living his best life.
So wait.
Yeah.
Catch me up. Were we talking about Trés's vitamin stack or is that your stack?
That's his vitamin stack.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm I take CBD. I'm all good with turmeric. I'm skipping the glucosamine. I don't think I need that quite yet. But
it's a BCAAs.
Yeah, you don't need to. If I went over my vitamin stack, we would stay here for a long time. We would be talking about my vitamin stack for a long time.
Oh my god! When Greg came over,
his vitamin stack.
When Greg came over, he's like, and you know what? we just met, but I'm going to say it. I farted, and he's like, Greg, or he's like, Scott, that smells terrible. And I'm like, well, I just started this new creatine. You know, I think that's what's killing me right now. So get it totally.
If you get the creatine that is a monohydrate, which it sounds like you have, it causes you to retain water, and it causes you to bloat. And when you feel bloated, it's going to come out the other end. You're welcome. So
yeah, my arms are looking bigger, though, right?
He looks like a water balloon, right?
That's why. Yeah. So you should switch to creatine, the hydrochloric version that will not cause the bloating. That's my 2 cents about that.
Perfect. No, I'll take that, and next time I hit up the vitamin shop.
You could just use the natural creatine in your body. How about that, Scott? Be a man.
You'd know nothing about that.
Oh, look at that. Oh, no. Shots fired.
All right. So in a general aspect, we've talked a lot about the health side of things, but what does he like to do? I mean, he's a dog. I have 2 yellow labs. One's a lab pit bull mix. Very different personalities. But what's his go-to thing? Is he? I don't think huskies were naturally bred to be good fetch dogs, but does he like playing fetch? I know it sounds like if you're longboarding by the beach, you could maybe be on the beach playing fetch or things like that. What kind of gets him going, and what stimulates his mind?
He's not a fetch dog at all. That's not his thing. He really likes to chew. Like, he likes his chew bones a lot. I've noticed that just if I'm working on the computer, if I'm doing something, he probably always has a chew bone in his mouth. That's his favorite thing, is to chew on things. But like I mentioned earlier, every time I say adventure, he knows that we're going in the car and we're going somewhere. He just likes to be out. He likes to be social. He likes to be outside. Whenever I grab his leash and he can hear, the metal kind of like making that little shaking sound on the leash, he goes crazy because he knows we're going outside. He loves to be out and socialize. Yeah, he's a very extroverted dog, which makes sense because I'm a very extroverted person. So that's what gets him going, is just knowing that we're going to go somewhere and do something and see people.
That's awesome.
That actually reminds me a lot of my dog. I mean, this dog, we can take the dog to the vet and he's excited. He's a golden retriever and won't fetch a ball, but we take him to the vet.
Bass backwards.
He's in love.
That's funny. Well, you had huskies growing up too.
Great.
Yep, I did have a husky growing up. Kiska. She passed probably 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, but sorry, R.I.P. Greg.
I don't know why I went right there.
So another thing that I wanted to ask you about is, now that you've been a parent of this Tri-Pawd dog for a couple months, has anything changed in you? And I know it realistically seems like I said this already, that you guys are a great fit and you're probably actually bettering each other every day. But has anything changed in you that's noticeable?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that I'm just a lot more patient, I would say, because I have to learn to kind of, I've learned from being with him just to wait things out a little bit, and not just assume, okay, this is going to be the way that it is. I just have learned to be a little bit more patient and sort of feel things out. And just in what truly what my passions are and what I want to do has changed. So I've always been a person that has strived to help other people. That's why I chose to go the fitness route for a career. But just working with him has inspired me to kind of extend that and work in fitness and wellness for animals and for people. So I'm looking into just changing up a few things career-wise, and he's definitely been an inspiration for that, to kind of bridge that gap of providing fitness outlets for people, but also something they can do with their animals as well, And I've considered so many therapy dog programs and things like that. That's another area that we're researching, because I think that, for children or veterans or people that have, lost an extremity or were born that way, he could just bring so much light to those environments. And so that's something that I'm considering doing. So that's something that I never would have thought, oh yeah, I'm going to have a dog and this dog is going to be a therapy dog and we're going to go to hospitals and, do this. I am a person that hates hospitals. They freak me out. But I'm willing to kind of get over that fear, because I know how much good it's going to do to have him with me and bring that light to those environments and to those people. So he's just changed my perspective of, things that used to scare me don't necessarily scare me anymore. And he's made me a lot more patient and has taught me that my priorities are much, much more different than what they used to be 4 months ago.
That's great. And, one thing we forgot to mention is how we actually got connected with you, and that was through Denise with Pet Prana. And, that's one thing.
Love Denise.
Yeah,
She's
and that's
great.
one thing that she, stresses on a daily basis, that mindful approach to pet guardianship. And we had her on a couple weeks ago. But it seems like you guys could kind of like work together great in that, you're transitioning into how you can really affect pets and dogs in a positive way from that approach. I think that's awesome. But one thing Greg actually brought up was, and you can go into it.
Yeah, the group we had on earlier, 2 girls from Survivor's Best Friend, and you mentioned, linking animals to veterans and people in need. Survivor's Best Friends, they're doing awesome work where they're actually linking, shelter dogs and even cats to survivors of physical, mental, and sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. So they're doing great work over there. So if that's something you're interested in, that's awesome. Obviously someone you should link up with.
Yeah. I was gonna.
Anyone should really, honestly. They're awesome. The girls are awesome over there
for sure. And at that vulnerable point in your life, you need a companion. You need somebody to be there for you on a daily basis. So I think that's huge. So before, I know we're getting close to. We usually keep it around 45 minutes, but. Do you have any advice for any potential future Tri-Pawd parents?
I do. I would say take it a day at a time and start small in terms of exercising. Start small, only go a little bit further each time, and just really be patient is the best advice. Just really take the time to get to know your dog, to get to know the limitations, and do the research. Find out about the supplements, the vitamins, ways to help improve their quality of life. Really talk to the vet, ask questions, get as much information as you can, and just have fun. I mean, it's really not something to be afraid of. If, people have considered having a Tri-Pawd dog versus a dog that has all 4 of their limbs, it can be just as great of an experience if you just are willing to put the time in and research what it is that your dog needs to help him thrive, or her. But it's a great experience, and it will teach you a lot. It will teach you a lot of patience. It will teach you a lot of humility, and I definitely recommend it. If someone's kind of on the fence about it, I say go for it.
No, that's awesome. And actually, I just re-brought up your Instagram page, and there's a little video, it looks like, of you possibly boxing. Have you ever thought about throwing a glove on him and checking out his left hook?
I mean, here's the thing. He can stand on his back 2 legs, but he's too friendly of a dog. I think that if I tried to put any sort of like boxing glove or any kind of MMA gear on him, he would just look at me like, yeah, I don't know if this is me. He's more of a peaceful animal, whereas I have a couple of different sides to me. If I get like a wild hair, if I see red, then I can do some damage on like a kickboxing bag or some equipment. Mm-hmm. But he's just too sweet for that. I don't see him being a boxing. I think he's more of like a beach boy. He's more of like, the skateboarder, paddleboarding dog. That's what I see for him. We're going to try that next. We're going to put him on a paddleboard and see what happens.
Awesome. That's sick. That'd be awesome. Yeah, kill him with kindness. And then the one last thing before we hopped off, my dog Leah, one of the reasons I got her when she was a puppy, aside from all the other dogs in the batch, and it was weird. She was a pit bull golden mix, but the dogs lab mix. Sorry, but she came out in the litter she was in. It was dogs that were all black hair, long hair, short hair. Then they had yellow hair. Then there was kind of like a weird brindle mix from the pit bull. And it was like a complete assortment of any kind of looking dog you could find. But she had this one little white I guess it would be like a crystal shape right on her forehead. And I noticed that Trés has that on his forehead. Is that something that you think is super unique? Yeah.
Yeah, it's black on him though, like the little crystal shape on his forehead. Yeah, that was one of the things, it's interesting that I noticed right away is he has some really unique markings. And also one thing about him is that he has actually, if you look at him really closely, he has a little black mark right underneath his left eye. And it's only on the left side. So that to me was another indicator like, wow, this dog, is meant to be my dog. It's just a reminder, like it's my imprint on him because he has that little marking underneath his left eye.
That's awesome. All right. So, do you have anything else that you want to shout out before we hop off in regards to owning a Tri-Pawd dog, owning dogs in general fitness, anything like that?
Yeah, like I said, just take it slow with your dog, and as far as for having any dog, not just a Tri-Pawd, but just having dogs in general is so good for your general fitness because it really does help you get outside and become more active. If you are already an active person, having any dog is just going to help increase that level of activity no matter what, because that's something that you have to consider as exercising another animal, not just exercising yourself. But with a Tri-Pawd, like I mentioned, just be patient. Take the time to do the research and start small, have fun with it, and just really give your dog a chance to show you what it is that they can do, and they will continue to show you, and they'll surprise you over time. And shout out just to Hollywood Huskies. I'm so grateful for them and for all that they did for us, for Trés and for myself and his foster parents, and making sure that we were able to connect and be in each other's lives now. So I'm just really excited for that, and for everybody that just had a part in his care and from his journey, making it from the shelter all the way to me. So I'm just really grateful for all those people.
Heck yeah. So tell everybody where to follow you.
So my Instagram is at Monique Nastari _fit. And you can also find Trés on Instagram. His Instagram it's at a husky named Trés. So you'll be able to find him. And myself. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we would love to have you on again just because it'd be awesome to follow up and see how well you guys are doing months down the road here. But
absolutely.
All the best.
Great.
Love you. Appreciate you coming on. And until next time.
Sounds good. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
So do you know how we wrap our episodes up?
I do.
All right. Do you want to start us off?
I can.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Wag more.
Bark less. Woo! Ow!
All right, guys. Hope you loved that episode with Monique Nastari.
I had fun.
Yeah, and her Tri-Pawd Trés. But as always, we love you guys. Follow us at Barkology Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff.
Everywhere you listen to
We're trying to swear less, but yes, also check out on YouTube the Dog Pack mini vlogs coming at you weekly. Love you guys. Subscribe, like it, and wag more, bark less.